I'm Alan Ing, and I'm with Zorianna Kit, and today we review South of Heaven. And I've got to tell you, I just discovered Ted Lasso. In fact, I just binge watched it, and wow, that had a real impact on the way I viewed South of Heaven, starring Jason Sudeikis. The question I think ultimately we want to ask here is Jason Sudeikis an action star? And what are your thoughts of South of Heaven?
No, he's not.
There's one pivotal scene in here where he's going through a house with a machine gun.
Yeah.
And that screamed to me, not action hero.
Yeah. No, he's not. But I appreciated the attempt here. So this film to me was this film is so curious to me. We all know Jason Sudeikis primarily from Saturday Night Live. He does have a reputation of playing this sort of aw shucks, gee whiz kind of character.
Yes.
So he plays a convict who is let out on parole because his wife is dying. She has cancer, played by Evangeline Lilly. And so they are going to spend their last year together, get married, all that stuff. So there is that sweetness in him. Apparently he was wrongfully convicted. He's not bad, but, there's bad around him, right? Bad friends.
His friends and associates are not good people.
Yes. Dirty cops, dirty parole officers, things like that. And he's like coerced to commit this crime, and then things go to hell in a handbasket, and then all of a sudden him and Evangeline Lilly are on the run. So that's the gist of it. And I sat through this movie and I was not bored, and I was not irritated in that I wanted to stop watching it. I really wanted to see this through. But for me, the tone in this film was so off, because when we have the couple, our romantic couple together, the lighting is different, and they play music that's like from the movie The Notebook. It's like, oh, we want this couple to be together. And then all of a sudden it cuts to these kind of like Millennium Films, Saban Entertainment, like action, B-movie action, guns and blow them up and blood, and it's very jarring, the shift.
It's like okay, so when a movie comes out and it has fairly high profile stars, and we got them here, Jason Sudeikis, Evangeline Lilly, Mike Coulter, and and you give one of these high profile actors a action movie, and it's a fairly standard action movie, which is this one. It's noir, where the character, where the events and things that happen to this character go bad to worse. And then you always see it in these interviews with them, and they tell you, the reason I did this movie is because it was more than just action, it was heart. There's a heart behind all the characters. And I think that was the problem with this movie is not only was there heart in this character, but it was so much heart. It was poured on really thick, like the thickest molasses you could find in the supermarket. And to me, it was just kind of like, maybe we just want an action movie here. Maybe we just want to see you run around and shoot guns and kill people, and not just make it so syrupy. There's a moment near the end of the movie where Mike Coulter, his son is in the hospital, and he gives this impassioned speech about how hard it was for him to be a father, and then the ending happens, and it's like you spent this time to give this character sympathy, a love for his son. And I just didn't feel like it paid it off in any way that is satisfying. And I would say that that's kind of this whole movie is, we're building so much sympathy and we're not paying off that sympathy in the right way.
You're right. We get introduced to the shady best friend, and then he leaves the movie and never to be seen again.
And the shady parole officer.
Yeah, and the shady parole officer is around, and then he's gone. And then Mike Coulter's character comes in, And then it's like, oh, okay. So because at first we're like, okay, so the dynamic of this movie is going to be between Jason Sudeikis and the parole officer played by Shea Whigham. Like that's the two-hander. And then
that's what the entire first act is built on, is this relationship.
And then it abruptly does a major switcheroo, and it's a two-hander between Jason Sudeikis and Mike Coulter. And then the son that you had referenced earlier, the son is one of those characters that is like, it's the over-exaggerated bratty rich kid who has these little zingers that we're supposed to find funny in the midst of all this violence. And it feels like that kid is in a completely different movie than everybody else.
Yeah.
So
and then you have the Jason Sudeikis' character, who's essentially, it's Ted Lasso, but an ex-con and knows how to use guns. I mean, it's that type of character where, they work real hard to make him sympathetic, not completely innocent, but we need to like this guy, and they really pour that on. And then I'll say this about Evangeline Lilly. What I appreciate about her performance is that a lot of times we'll give characters cancer and just say they have cancer. And then now there's this ticking clock for that character, but they actually gave her cancer in this one and made her look the part. And that's something I appreciate about this compared to other movies that have characters with cancer.
I actually she was my favorite character. I mean, she was like in a separate movie too,
She's definitely the moral center of the movie.
Yes, always wearing white aprons and baking, and she loves her soon-to-be husband, that they're going to get married, and we see all this heartfelt stuff, and it was really nice to see Evangeline Lilly play a role like that.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, she was my favorite. But again, it was like, this movie was really all over the place tonally. And I think that's what made it hard. It made it very interesting for me to follow, because I was like, I don't know where this is going, and I want to see it play out. But ultimately I was like, wow, it really just needed someone to just kind of hone in on the tone and stick with that.
You said it there. I think that sums up my experience. Is I was interested in the story and I was engaged in where it was going, but then it makes these weird turns story-wise that don't really pay off in the film. And I felt like that I'll say this, there may be 3 unforced errors that this movie makes, and if they hadn't made those errors, this movie would have been a much better movie. And it's just kind of like, and so we're gonna kind of focus in on, is Jason Sudeikis an action hero? And no, he's not.
No.
So so clearly, I'm feeling like we feel the same way about this one. I think there's enough good in the movie to recommend it, but not enough to really move the needle when it comes to anyone's career in this one, or the story at all. So so I'll go 6.5.
Yeah, 6.5. You're right. You're spot on for me. And I would venture to say that because we feel so the same on this, that perhaps you also gave it a 6.5.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a shame. It's again, we're locked in, but it just goes on. It's like a Disneyland ride you really want to go on, and you realize it's not as good as you thought it would be.
But listen, it's funny. We talked last week about how Frank Grillo is like in every single movie we've seen, all practically over the past pandemic here. I also feel like we have to add Shea Whigham to this list. He plays the parole officer, and
our third Shea Whigham movie.
Yes, exactly. And by the way, very versatile. I mean, compared to what we saw him in what was the one with John Barenthal?
Small Engine Repair.
Yeah, compared to the one we saw him in Small Engine Repair, 2 very different characters. Really good actor. And then before that, he played like a cop social worker in an action movie. So here he plays like a real bad guy. There's no heart of gold on this one, but it's great. But he's working his ass off during this COVID time. So kudos to him.
Yeah, just in case you're curious, this is more film noir. It just things get worse and worse and worse, and and that's what this movie is about, is just punishing Jason Sudeikis, and that's probably karma for Ted Lasso. So there you go. So what did you think of South of Heaven? Let us know. Like, subscribe, comment, and with that, let's get out of here.